Welcome to the H.E.A.L, Help, Elevate, and Learn podcast. This podcast is a guide to healing your inner child and maturing your inner adult. This is the place where we slow down, look within, and begin the journey of restoring what was lost, silenced, or forgotten. Here, we believe that healing the inner child is not about reliving the past, it's about rewriting your future. Together, we'll uncover the wisdom, strength, and the love you've always carried inside. So take a deep breath. You're safe, you're seen, and you're right where you need to be.
Hello, everybody. How you doing today? This is Sakoni Prince of SakoniPrince.com, where we make motivation personal by introducing you to yourself. And I want to welcome you to the H.E.A.L podcast. H.E.A.L is an acronym for Help, Elevate, and Learn, and it's based on my latest book with the same title, but the subtitle is It's a Guide to Healing Your Inner Child. And I'm telling you that writing that book and putting this podcast together has been one of the joys of my life because it allows me an opportunity to help raise people's awareness of how some of their current day behavior was seeded in their childhood. Well, we are getting ready for our show today, and I'm telling you, we have a special guest, and I can't wait to introduce you to her. But of course, as always, we have to thank our sponsor, none other than BetterHelp. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who is trained to listen and give you helpful, unbiased advice. First, you go to their site. You can use my link, betterhelp.com/SakoniPrinceHeal. You answer a few questions, and BetterHelp will match you to a professional who's had years of experience helping people with struggles just like yours. You can do it all from your phone or your computer, via a phone call, a video chat, or messaging. However you feel most comfortable. It is the easiest possible way to start talking to a therapist. You'll be matched to a therapist usually within 48 hours, so you can get started fast. Let BetterHelp connect you to a therapist who can support you, all from the comfort of your own home. Visit betterhelp.com/SakoniPrinceHeal or choose Sakoni Prince Heal during your sign up and enjoy a special discount on your first month. And again, we want to thank our sponsor, BetterHelp, for sponsoring this amazing episode. Well, listen, I told you I had a special guest, and I'm going to bring up on the screen right now none other than Miss Maxx Jones. Miss Jones, introduce yourself.
Hi. Well, first, I want to say thank you for having me here today.
You're welcome.
An honor to be here on the H.E.A.L podcast. And I like the work that you're doing, and congratulations on your book and everything that you're doing, because it definitely takes a village to bring everybody together to get us on the same page so that we can actually heal and live. So as you said, my name is Maxx, or Maxx Angenetta Jones, or just ask Maxx. I am a relationship business coach, hypnotherapist. I am a neuro-linguistic programmer practitioner, and I have a magazine, and I help other coaches connect to their ideal clients, as well as people find the person that they're looking for to grow their life. And it's so important that we do that. I just believe that we are our brother's keepers. So I'm all for anyone who is out there making a difference so that we are not in the mundane, everyday place in life. We are just constantly growing and learning and being. And that's a wonderful thing to me.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And there's a need for more people like that in the world who really see the value of other people. One of the things I've shared, especially in my sizzle reel, is how important it is for us to see our own value, for us to value our value and see what value our value brings. Because in doing so, we'll see the responsibility that comes with that. And it's nothing more than a paraphrase of the scripture, to whom much is given, much is required. But I don't think people have taken the time to see what they've been given, and so they don't see the requirement in it.
That is true. That is so true.
So let's hop into some of these questions, because I know you have some incredible insight that's going to help our listeners get to a better place and a better space in life.
Let's get it.
All right. So number one, what does maturing your inner child mean to you? and how has that shown up in your personal journey?
So that, as I told you yesterday, these are really excellent questions that get to the core of who we are as people. So, maturing my inner child simply means that I need to respond and not react. And
Right.
generally, as children, we react when things are not going the way we want. We have temper tantrums, we shut
Yes.
down, or we simply just stay in a place and not move.
Right.
And as we mature, we look at self inside. Most of the things that we're going through right now are things that occurred when we were children and we have not resolved them. So
Right.
as the adult has to follow their dream and respond accordingly to situations. If you have a situation that there's absolutely nothing that you can do, you have to let it go,
Right.
move on to something else. And a lot
Right.
of times as adults, we don't do that. And when we mature, we begin to look at the things that we can change, and we'll work with those things, and we won't run away with them. And that is how we mature. Now, I do something through hypnosis where
Mm-hmm.
we look at the inner child, and through hypnosis, we go back to each time where you had a traumatic incident that reflects right now, and you
Mm-hmm.
go back and you reassure your inner child that you're safe. You tell them all the things that you know now that you wish you have known then. And then
Right.
when you come out of hypnosis, you're moving yourself forward with your inner child in a healed state. And that
Mm.
normally takes a couple of sessions. However, that is one of the ways that we mature the inner child. The inner child, even as an adult, is still a part of you. It's in
Right.
that part of your body where we look at all the chakras. It's in that yellow chakra where we need healing, where the self contract is, all the things we want to do. We definitely have to heal that inner child and speak to that child. There are so many classes out there that are so wonderful that we can work on our inner child. Now, in my personal life,
Mm-hmm.
so ah, in my personal life, my inner child is something that I started working with at the age of 18. In my life,
Mm-hmm.
younger, let's say from kindergarten to 13, I lived with my biological mom, and there was a lot of mental, physical, and verbal abuse.
Mm-hmm.
When I got 18, from 13 to 18, I lived with my foster mom, but my mom, as far as things are concerned. And
Right.
it was mom who taught me how to love and heal myself and
Mm.
to be courageous and to go out and try and do things. And she was adamant about it doesn't matter what people say about you.
Right.
Don't listen to that. Because sometimes people will say things that you believe about yourself that are horrible. And then you say, oh, that must be true because they're saying it. So my mom taught me how to
Mhm.
work and love me.
Right.
All the things from childhood abuse, um, not feeling good about myself, thinking that no one would love me, think all those things I had to learn to love me. So we did a
Right.
lot of drawing and a lot of inner work about how I saw myself at 13 and how I actually looked and how, just the true self. You ever, if you're ever out with friends and you say, let's take a picture, you'll have some friends,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, I don't take pictures. I don't
Right.
like I look on pictures. When you love and mature your inner child, you'll take the picture. This is
Right.
me.
Right.
This is me.
Right.
Doesn't matter if you think I look fat or if they look. This is me. And
Right.
if I think I look fat, then what am I willing to do about it? Because I'm
That part.
constantly working on my inner child. And is it what I want or is it something in my head? Because technically, growing your inner child means living in your heart, in that heart space, not the mushroom factory. Because I can tell you all day, you're nice, you're attractive, all the good things. And one person will come by and say something negative, and boom,
Right.
knocks you right out of place. And
Right.
when you know who you are, when you're working with yourself, when you see yourself as a reflection of God, no one can knock you down the hill. And if you knock yourself down the hill, you have someone to help you. Spiritually, you have spirit, God, or however you pray. Physically, you can call a friend, life coach, therapist. There's someone
Hmm.
you just need to want to.
Yeah. I tell people all the time, until you know who you are, anything can stop you.
Yes.
But once you know who you are, nothing can.
It's that discernment. The Bible says that we have the gift of discernment.
Yeah.
And that means that we are listening to what this person is saying. And
Right.
that discernment says, no, 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 no,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's not
Yeah.
true. So you're
That's
right.
true.
You're
Yeah.
absolutely right.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's why I encourage people to get to know who they are.
Yeah.
All right. So what it says many of us carry unhealed parts of our childhood. What are some signs that your inner child is still in control of your decision making today?
How you react to a situation, it really shows up when you're in relationships with other people because we can hide our pain. We are so good at hiding our pain or putting on a mask. Nothing to see here. Don't look here. Don't look at
Right.
me. However, when you're in a relationship, whether it's a
Hmm.
friendship, a personal relationship, or work, it takes about 3 minutes. You talk to someone for 3 minutes, you'll understand and know who they are. That inner child will show up because it'll make decisions that are not good for the person, for yourself. The
Right.
inner child will have temper tantrums. The inner child will argue, fight, say toxic things. And just think about a child when a child has a temper tantrum.
Right.
Okay. As adult, we have adult temper tantrums.
Mm.
And we have to watch that in ourselves and our relationships. So most of the time, when you see two people arguing, what you see is unresolved trauma. And
Right.
that's you showing up. It can show up as you being late to work. Okay.
Yeah.
Everything that you're doing goes back to your childhood from birth to 18. Like, think of going to high school from kindergarten to high school. You
Hmm.
go, you go to learn, okay?
Right.
When you're home with your parents, you're learning something too. You're
That's true.
graduating each year, and sometimes we don't know that we're carrying trauma until it comes up. People will say, I'm fine, but you're not. So
Right.
I like to look at it this way. Imagine when you're born perfect. You have no scars, no wounds, nothing. Every
Hmm.
birthday, you get a scar.
Mm.
And until you're 18, you have scars all over you from trauma that has happened in your life.
Right.
Now, if I go to hug you, you're going to think that I'm hurting you, but I'm
Mm.
touching a scar that occurred from your past.
Right.
You haven't healed. I'm doing my job to say something is wrong. You have to heal. But from your point of view, you'll say, no, Max, you did that. You harmed me.
Yeah.
It's from your
Yeah.
past.
Yeah. And that's, oh man, that's so so true. And listen, we have a comment here. Dr. In fact, Ladanya Vet, my good friend, she says, greetings, looking forward to today's episode. Yeah, we appreciate her for tuning in as well. And you're so right. We have to be able to recognize when we've been triggered, and that trigger is from a trauma. And if we don't recognize that, we will always point the finger at the person in front of us,
Hmm.
and we will never see the correlation between what happened and why it happened. And so I think it's incumbent upon all of us. One of my guests, she talked about staying curious,
Hmm.
curious and about ourselves. Because, like I tell people all the time, in order to get the right answers, you have to ask the right questions.
Yes.
But we'll question everybody else, but rarely do we question ourselves. Like,
We
why
don't,
did I do that?
we
Why
don't
did I
want to.
respond that way?
We don't want to see
Yeah,
ourselves.
right,
We.
right.
I want to help you grow. I want to help you grow. However, I cannot grow in my Native American culture unless I eat first and then pass it around. Nobody grows. If I'm
Mm.
not 100%, I can't help you grow. I need
Right.
to work on me first. So you're absolutely right. When you're
Right.
pointing the finger, the beautiful thing about it is everything makes sense. When you're pointing the finger, I'm pointing at you, but my thumb is pointing right back at me. And it's saying it starts with you.
Right.
When you look at that, we are shooting a gun. I'm shooting at you, but it's pointing right back to me. And
Yeah.
it's saying, no, this person is doing you a favor. They're reminding you that something is broke. So let's look at if when you're a child, your parent says, hey, you can't do that. And it's the
Hmm.
same thing, it's just different.
Right. Right. That's true. Like Dr. Diane said, good information. And we also have, well, in fact, my wife Yolanda, she says, I'm hugging you, but you're feeling the scar. It's so
Yes.
good. And that is, and in fact, that is true, but being able to actually understand that. In fact, Dr. Diane says, in fact, most definitely it starts with you. And it does. We have to be accountable to ourselves and
Mhm.
for ourselves. And I know, nowadays we live in an era where there's more awareness of that. There's more openness about it, which is another reason why I wanted to do this podcast, because I wanted to make sure that I kept the conversation going. I've sold more copies of this book than any of my previous 5 books combined, because it's it's a subject that's needed, but I knew the conversation needed to keep going. And that's another reason why I want to have people like you, experts like you on the podcast to talk about and share your history, your stories, and some of the things that you've gone through to help you heal.
Yes.
All right, our next question says, how can someone begin to recognize the difference between reacting from their inner child and responding as their mature adult self?
That is for some people they may find that question to be difficult.
Mm,
And it's all in the behavior. And behavior
okay.
has to make sense. So when you are responding as a child will respond, it doesn't match where you are as an adult mentally, emotionally, and
Right.
educationally.
Right.
You're doing
Right.
things that don't honor you or respect you or the other person. And it's
Mm,
almost the same as a child having a temper tantrum, falling out on the floor, okay?
right.
Or screaming and yelling. What is accomplished then? you know
Right.
and if we take it a step back and we say, okay, everybody doesn't holler and everybody doesn't scream. However, if you're angry, and there is healthy anger, yes, but
Right.
inappropriate anger is a child, okay,
Right.
saying things, thinking things, doing things that are inappropriate.
Right.
And we
Right.
know when we are going to hurt somebody or ourselves, or we want to get back. That is that inner child having a temper tantrum. And in this world, we call it
Mm,
toxic behavior, you know,
right.
and the maturity part of it says, no, don't respond. Sit down. Try to understand. And that takes a lot, even though it doesn't seem like that it would. It takes a lot to say, okay, let me sit with this. Let me ask questions. What are you
Mm,
saying to me? How can I resolve this? How can we work on this? The adult is always going to want to resolve, go to a
right.
higher place. And you can take it back to childhood when your children are having their terrible twos.
Mhm, right. Right.
Please,
Yeah.
let's talk about this. Let's
Right.
color until we come up with an answer or a response. That is the mature part of you wants to explore, like you said earlier. It wants
Hmm.
to be curious. It wants to say, how can I get to the other side of this
Right.
agreement? And when you hear it in your head and you're pulling it together, and your thoughts have compassion, honor, integrity, and care, when you have the four chambers of the heart, is what I call it: compassion,
Hmm.
honor, integrity, and care. That is the adult side of you.
Mm,
Because the adult side of you says, okay, am I handling this with compassion? Do I see their point of view? Am I
Mm.
honoring them as a person? Do I have integrity and care? And that could be to another person or to yourself. The heart
Right.
has to be fully functioning and working in order to be mature.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah, that's
beautiful
true.
thing.
Yeah, that's true. We owe it to ourselves and to those who we've been called to serve
Mm-hmm.
to operate that way. And when I say called to serve, I use that because, sometimes people just say loved ones or families or friends, but I mean, there are times when we've been called to serve people that we didn't even know, complete strangers. But if we're operating from that place, and I love what you said about those chambers of the heart. Imagine one of those chambers not working. You have a deficient heart. It's not operating at its full capacity. And so we owe it again to ourselves and to those we've been called to serve to make sure that our heart is in that place to where we can have that kindness, that compassion, that honor, and that integrity. In fact, when it comes to how we deal with other people.
True. Very
Uh,
true.
I do have to share this because I had I asked this question to one of my guests, and she gave one of the most intuitive answers, and it has impacted me so much that I just have to repeat it
Okay.
because, in fact, the question was phrased is like how can someone recognize the difference between reacting from their inner child and responding as their inner adult self? And her answer was, it's both. It's not one or the other. And I was like, okay, so explain that. And she said, well, normally our first reaction is an emotional one. It's
Mm-hmm.
from our inner child. From our inner child. We have
Mm-hmm.
an emotional reaction. But she said her inner adult would see what her inner child need. And she gave an example. She said, if my inner child doesn't feel safe, instead of just running away, my inner adult will actually say, "Okay, look, I'm going to leave. I'm going to exit, and not just run away." She said, if her inner child needed somebody to stand up for her, instead of the inner child screaming, yelling, throwing that tantrum, like you were talking about, she said that her inner adult would say, "Okay, I got this," and would speak up for for that part of herself that didn't feel like it had a voice. And when she said that, I was like, "That's it. That marriage, in fact, between the both, because we still carry that part of us. In fact, we still carry that inner child in
Yeah.
us, but it's like, how can you don't want to pacify, dismiss it, or push it to the side. It's still there, but you want to be able to take what it gives you, but respond in an adult fashion. In fact, we have a comment here. In fact, Dr. Denine, she says, accountability versus ownership. Accountability is answering for what happened. Ownership is taking responsibility for what happens next. One looks back, the other looks forward. And that is so, so true. A lot
Yeah.
of people have a problem with accountability and have a problem with ownership. But yeah, in fact, we definitely need to make it a point to it, that we are maturing in our lives. In fact, so we can do both.
Yeah, growth is a beautiful thing. Pain and all those things, if that's what you want, then, sometimes we grow up believing, that
Hmm.
everything has to be confusing and there has to be conflict. And I'm not saying everything can be perfect, but you
Right.
have to look at the amount of conflict that you allow in your life. And some of it you just have to say no, no.
Yeah. 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 You definitely have to start. How can I say? I don't want to say filtering, but just censoring where you allow yourself to be. You
Yes.
know, certain situations, certain people, certain circumstances. You have to know, okay, look, this isn't serving me. Like, this isn't good for me, and I need to separate myself from this because it, it it's definitely not making me better, and more than likely, it's put me in a position where it's making me worse. And so we have to, but see, that comes from like maturity. That comes from us, in fact, maturing our inner adult.
Sure.
Our next question says, in your experience, what role does forgiveness of self and others play in the healing and maturing process?
It plays a major role in life. And it also determines if we stay here on this planet or if we leave this planet.
Ooh.
When you, and forgiveness is a huge thing.
Mm-hmm.
First, forgive yourself for and hold yourself accountable for whatever the situation is. But the forgiveness of others is actually for you also.
Right, right.
Sometimes people don't like people and they don't even know why. They have no
Mm-hmm.
clue. So you have
Right,
to look at all these things. To forgive someone is good for longevity, your health,
right.
the where you land in life, how you
Mm-hmm.
see people and who you share your life with. Healing and forgiveness work hand in hand. Forgiveness doesn't mean that what you did is okay. It just means that I forgive you because you're on a certain path and I'm on a certain path. And if you understand that we are here to learn lessons, and no matter how you look at it, there are 66 to 72 books in the Bible that teaches lessons and give us wisdom. There's a
Mm-hmm.
strategy, there's coaching, there's therapy, and everything you look at self-help, it will give you an answer to the why of your question or why or what's going on. So forgiveness allows you to see a bigger, broader picture because
Okay.
if you cannot forgive, you will stay stuck. And no matter what relationship you get into, you will come to where you're stuck and you'll still be there. It'll be a different person, but
Mm.
the same situation, all because you couldn't forgive the past. And that's
Yeah.
a very powerful and hard lesson for a lot of people is I forgive myself and others. Somewhere in the Bible it says, I forgive my debtors as they forgive me, and so on and so on. You're not
Mm.
perfect. So someone has to forgive you for something you did. So if you
That's
show
true.
with yourself, I forgive myself and all others so that I can move forward. And it seems selfish, but it isn't. It's about you living the best that you can and not bringing yourself down. And if you do some research, you'll see that a lot of illnesses are
Mm.
directly connected to the lack of forgiveness.
Mm. Wow. Wow. And listen, we have a question here. We have a Dr. Ladanya. She said, question, what is your perspective on maturing versus healing? Which comes first?
Ah, I'm going to say healing is a part of maturing for me because
Mm-hmm.
as I heal, I grow. If I
Mm.
cannot heal, I'm stuck at a place. So
Mm.
I'm going to say healing for me comes first. I must first look at what is broken or what is harmed, and I must go in and heal it, and then I can grow. I read this book by Miguel Ruiz, and he was talking about, how we heal. And remember,
Mm-hmm.
we talked about the wounds earlier. As I
Right.
heal a wound, I grow.
Okay.
For each wound that I grow with wisdom, I grow with knowledge and understanding and maturity. So, in
Right.
order for me to get to become mature, I must heal first.
Okay. All right. Cool. Cool. Thank you, Dr. Ladanya, for that question.
It's an excellent question.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. So, our next question is, what practical daily habits or practices help nurture both healing the inner child and strengthening the inner adult?
Ah, meditation, affirmations, positive talk, self talk, uh, therapy, talk therapy. There are so many things. Binaural beats, listening to a certain energy, 400. I think it's 432 megahertz. There are so many things that will help us just put us in the mindset of healing the inner child.
Hmm. Yeah.
However, for me, I believe the best thing is communicating with others through therapy and coaching because there is always someone who's going to be able to see outside of your inner perspective. They're going to be able to
Right.
see from the outside looking in and help
Right.
guide you. So, meditation, Reiki, all the healing practices work along with the mind, body, and spirit. And I believe that when you heal the mind, you heal the spirit, and the body follows along. So
Mm,
I would say if I'm healing the mind, I'm going to talk to someone, get help, help someone
right.
who is in that profession to help me along the journey to heal my mind. For my body, I may get Reiki, I may do some inner child work, I may journey, get sound bowl healings. There are so many things. And for my spirit is meditation and prayer
Mm,
and drawing. So I like to attack all three things to make sure that I've covered because we are mind, body, and spirit. To do
mm,
one without the other just puts us halfway. And I want to make
yeah.
sure I'm all the way there. Just
Right. 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 Well, when you were talking, I thought about that quote by Les Brown where he said that you can't see the picture when you're in the frame.
yes,
And sometimes it takes somebody outside of us to be able to look at us and I can say that I've gone through therapy and I'm currently going through therapy and it has been eye-opening for me, just the revelations and just the understanding about myself that I've gotten, which really helps. It gives you an opportunity to make adjustments if needed.
yes, it
But
does.
oftentimes it's hard for us to see even ourselves. And so and I believe that God has given us each other for us to be there for each other, for us to help each other. Not everybody can be a doctor and lawyer. Some people have to be a dentist and mechanic. Some people have to be a barber. Uh, some have to be a home builder, a landscaper. So we all need each other. We can. I mean, yeah, if you can try to do most of that stuff yourself, but there are certain things that are just have to be specialized, and you have to go to somebody. And then even with that, you have to trust them that they know more than you and be
Yes,
willing to actually listen to them in such a way to where you can actually get the help you need. We,
that is true. That is
yep,
true. It shows up in a lot of things that we read or do when you're on an airplane. It says to put on your mask first before you
yes,
ask
that part.
other people. And it says, "Am I not my brother's keeper?" Because
Yep.
we are. I believe the reason that we separate from each other is because we do not want someone else to hold us accountable. So we try to
Mm,
people, we want to hang out with people who are going to agree with our wickedness sometimes. We don't want
wow.
to hang
Okay.
out with people who are going to be like, hey, and not in an accusatory way where you feel bad. And
Right.
in a way, like sometimes I ask my friends questions, oh, and they get so upset because so I don't help me to understand is what I normally say. Is help me to understand why you came to that conclusion or how you got there. And
Hmm.
that is the thing that, when you want to be hold someone accountable, you ask them the who, what, where, why, when. And there
Right.
are these simple questions that allow them to even think through it themselves and say, okay, I am wrong. I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
can't, even in what we do in coaching and therapy, we cannot agree just because you want us to agree. If you're wrong, you have to find a way to gently and kindly say, no, that wasn't the best action to take.
That's true. That's true. We have another comment from a good friend of mine, Miss Sheila King. She says, doing inner shadow work is an excellent daily healing practice. And it's something that has to be done on a daily basis. Uh, I remember it was Simon Sinek. He talked about brushing your teeth one time doesn't give you the overall effect. It doesn't change your dental hygiene or your dental health by
Mm,
doing it one time. But if you do it every day, if you are repeatedly doing it, you will see the results. And that's the
cons-
same thing that's true even when it comes to our mental health and just us being in a better place in life. We can get that understanding. We can get that revelation. We can do the work that's needed for us to make those adjustments. So
And
yeah,
you're right.
go
Yeah.
ahead.
Shadow work is one of the greatest things that you can do. And it's not easy, it's not a walk in the park. But shadow work requires you to show up and see yourself and to see where you are, and who and how you're operating. So yes, shadow work is a good thing to do also. It's just not for the faint of heart. It is good work. It is good work.
Like my pastor sometimes say, this is real cop stuff.
Right. Shadow work is like shadow work is I got you, and it means I got you. You have to look at you have to hold yourself up to the light and say, okay, I'm operating in the dark. And now
Right.
you operate in the light. So it is a real police story, shadow work.
Yeah. 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 For
But it's
real. For
good.
real.
Good.
Yeah. We have another comment, Dr. Ladanya. She says, in fact, when you take the emotions out of it, you gain clarity.
Mhm.
Emotion can cloud the moment, but when you remove it, you see the truth. In fact, the lessons and opportunities.
Absolutely.
Amen. Oh, we got a whole bunch of people. And in fact, Miss King has come back in and she's actually shared another comment. She says shadow work is brutal, but necessary in the healing process. And
Yes.
that's true.
Shadow work is for the streets, but it does work.
It's for the
It's
it's,
100% for the streets. It's
it's
like,
for the streets. Oh man. Oh man. Well, if my wife, if Dr. Danya, well, she says yes. If Danya, our emotions can really hinder us, and that is true. They can definitely hinder us. So listen, we want to take a quick break and then want to come back and wrap this up. But we can't help but thank our sponsors, and that's going to be, well, I actually have a book that I'm working on, my sequel, and if you see, it's right there. It's it's a secret to heal, but this one is about healing the or maturing the inner adult. So let's check out this commercial.
You've taken the first step. You've learned to heal. Now it's time to go deeper. The journey to maturity doesn't stop with awareness. It grows with action. In this powerful sequel to Heal, you'll uncover new strategies to elevate your mindset, strengthen your emotional resilience, and step fully into the adult you were always meant to be. This is more than a book. It's a blueprint for transformation. Are you ready to rise? The next chapter of your growth starts now. Available soon on Amazon.
And yes, we are so excited about that book coming out because we believe it's definitely going to help, again, catapult people from the healing of the inner child to the maturing of the inner adult. And I also want to highlight the fact that my coach, Dr. Ruben West, is going to be doing a trip to Nairobi, Kenya this year in July. And this is a clip, this is a sizzle reel from when he went last year. So we want to thank our coach, Dr. Ruben West, who does an amazing job with those trips. And I'm telling you, if you have an opportunity to go to Africa, it is a once in a lifetime experience. It's a life-changing experience. I went with him back in 2023, and I can tell you that I haven't been the same since because I had a chance to really just connect with my roots. So if you're interested in doing that, you can reach out to me or you can search Dr. Ruben West. He's on all social medias. And I'm telling you, it is worth your time. Even if you just want to go and just tour, but if you want to go and speak, he's definitely the person I would recommend you go with. All right, we got two more questions, then we're gonna call it a night. But listen, question number 6 says, can you share a personal breakthrough moment when you realize you were no longer controlled by past wounds, but guided by maturity?
Raising children. Raising children.
You
Oh,
say raise the children?
raising children. Raising
Okay,
children.
unpack that for us.
Raising children will show you that your maturity level is gangster. Okay. And you know, earlier you said that the young lady said it was a little bit of both. First, you have to get your inner child in check and not have it spilling out to the children. You have to say,
Right.
okay, I'm gonna get it together.
Right.
I need you to respond accordingly and act like you have some common sense, act like you have God in you, because children will test your inner child. Children will test your maturity level, whether it's a 2 or a 10. And it doesn't matter how old they are, okay? But when they get into like 14, 15, 16,
Mm-hmm.
that's when you and but that was the purpose. Like I said, I started growing at an early age because of my mom. Now, I have 10 kids, but I never gave birth to any children. But I have 10 kids. It sounds like a riddle. And I had to work on not responding, not yelling at them, not saying you know better. I had to work on my inner child because my inner child was thinking, they got me messed up. And I had to pray about it and say, okay, I don't want to show up the way that they're showing up. So working on my inner child allows me to respond without emotion, with logic. And that's the big thing. But
Yeah.
the maturity part means that you have to respond with logic when it comes to your children. That's part of being mature. And just recently, I have a niece, a foster niece that's 13, and she tries to push every button. And I have to show up and say, okay, this is where we are. Let's think of a way to resolve it. So,
Mm.
nurturing and growing my inner child has definitely allowed me to show up for my children and for my new niece. Without doing that work, I would probably be hollering, yelling, dropping the F bomb, just everything that's
Right.
not appropriate. So
Right.
and that's one of the good things about maturing. You
Mm-hmm.
understand they're at a growth process and you have to see their growth process and you have to bring your growth process to the party also. And that's
That's
the great thing about shadow work is whatever's coming into your life, whatever's affecting you, is it your
mm-hmm.
is it your time to deal with it or grow with it? Or have you already learned your lesson and is it showing up as a test? So is it
Mm.
live? Is it Memorex? And hopefully it'll be Memorex because I've learned those lessons. And for me, that's where I've learned, you know, and I see where I've matured. Because when I was younger, I had anger issues and I had
Mm.
to deal with those anger issues quickly. So
All right.
children will definitely test you.
Okay. Yeah, but Dr. Diane, she said gangster and for the streets, LOL, truth, hollering. And that is true. That is true. You know, you you you, you realize that, you know, this it isn't for wimps. You know, you have to be committed. And you know, I keep sharing this because the succession is so important. Before there can be consistency, there has to be commitment, because
Yes,
without commitment, there's no consistency. But
none at
without
all.
consistency, there's no success. And without success, there's no legacy. And I don't care what it is you are talking about. I use the example of Michael Jackson and Michael Jordan. They were committed to their crafts.
Yes.
That commitment led to their consistency. Even after Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team, that didn't stop him. He was consistent because of his commitment. But that consistency eventually led to his success. Same thing with Michael Jackson. His commitment to music, his consistency in music made him successful at it. But that success over time left a legacy, made them legendary. And I oftentimes ask people, okay, so what do you want to be known for? And they'll say what I'll say, okay, well that means that you're gonna have to be successful at that. But that means you have to be consistent at that. But that means you're gonna have to be committed at that because
That's
without those, there's no way for you to get to that end. And so, yeah, having that commitment, even in our own mental health, even in our own journey, even in our own healing process, are we committed to healing? Because if we're committed to it, we'll be consistent, even when it gets hard, even when we want to quit and want to stop or turn away and run. If we're committed, we'll stay. And if we're consistent, we'll have success at it. And then we'll be able to have a legacy of it.
that is true.
Last question. What encouragement would you give to someone who feels stuck in old patterns and unsure if real healing is possible for them?
Ah, that's something that we deal with every day where, people feel stuck. And what I always say is one day, one step. Nothing happens overnight.
Right, right,
And every day you have to take a step in the direction that you want to go in or to unlearn bad behaviors, thoughts, and things of this nature. You've had them for so long. So one day, one session, listening to something once is not going to make it go away. But as you said earlier, consistency,
right,
being determined to show up,
right,
showing up for yourself, even if it's hard to be in that place, you've made a change, you've made a difference. So
right,
I always say to people, show up and let someone lead you and take the steps with someone. It may be not easy to take the steps alone. Let's, like I said, shadow work is excellent, but it's hard. So sometimes you need to hold someone's hand until you
right.
can get to that place. I remember not too long ago they were on TikTok. They were, people were getting the books of affirmations and shadow work and all those things. Those things help. So you
Mm,
have to do something. Doing something is better than doing nothing,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
that's
And
true.
as you said, like with Michael Jordan, I could tell you when he was kicked off the basketball team, his thought was, I'm going to show you. And his parents were 100% in with him to show them that
Right.
this is the road and this is where we're going to be. So that's the
Yeah,
big thing in this friendship circle is show. You have to show up to show.
yeah,
So
that's
one
true.
day, one
That's
step
true.
is always the motto. It's one day, one step.
One
And
day,
you
one
may
step.
feel like you go back a step, but you still have made a step because
Right.
2 feet, 2 steps.
Hmm. Okay. Well, listen, if somebody wanted to get in contact with you, if somebody want to follow you, if somebody want to see what you have going on, how would they do that?
Well, there are several ways. I have a magazine called Life Coaching Today. You can go to
Okay.
Life Coaching Today. I'm always in a magazine with other coaches and entrepreneurs.
Hmm.
You can Google Just Ask Max, and you can find me that way. I'm
Okay.
on Facebook as Max Angenetta Jones. I'm on TikTok and just about everywhere. If you put in Life Coaching Today, I generally pop up. Or if you
Okay.
put in Max Angenetta Jones. But Life Coaching Today is basically all you need to do is put that in, whether you put it together all together or separately, I'll come up and I'll be there. Hey.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, listen, we want to thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be on our podcast and to pour into our listeners. We appreciate you. And like I tell a lot of my listeners, and really I should tell all of them, I appreciate the work that you're doing because it's one thing for you to do that for yourself, but it's a
Mhm.
whole nother thing for you to take on the mantle to help somebody else go through that process. So again, we appreciate all of the work that you're doing. All right. And with that being said, we're going to wrap up this podcast. And I've been closing the podcast out with my brand new scissor reel. And let me see. Well, did I change that? Wait. I'm pulling it up, pulling it up. Here we go. And with that being said, we will see you next time.
Thank you for having me. Have a good night. And thank you for
You're
all your
welcome.
guests and all the wonderful, wonderful questions.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right. So here we